Shalom. All praises to the Most High. All praises to the great King. All praises to his holy name. Man, I'm trying to tell you, the truth makes me happy. All praises, because these are happiness mean you're blessed. And I'm blessed to be able to bring this message to you once again. The truth. According to the word of the Most High and according to definitions that they have created to support the truth. Although many times the enemy tells a lot of truth, but he paints the picture like he's talking about himself. But when the truth arrives, then you realize who the truth is talking about. It leaves the enemy no room to turn back around now because he's already documented what he said was the truth. So you can't replace the truth at that point because the truth is revealed. And you can't change the storyline because it's not you anymore. And you got to tell the truth of who the word is talking about. You can't change it now because you've already revealed what you said the truth was. It's just that he wasn't talking, the truth wasn't talking about you. So let's do the foundational scripture. And when I get it, this is based on what does the Most High word talk about reparation? Because I hear a lot of Israelites, even Edomites, talking about reparation. And a lot of the Edomites believe that they don't owe us any reparation. Although they give all of their people much reparation that they don't even apply to them. I'm only talking about the truth. I'm not against nobody. I'm just trying to see people get offended for no reason. People get offended behind things that's the truth. Nobody's asking for a handout. That's what we're gonna find out what reparation means. You're responsible for all these things. That's the first thing you say. You got to take responsibility. Well, why don't you take some? To make the foundation of scriptures. The sealed portion, chapter 81, verse 41. But in the beginning, it was not so. This is talking about Adam and Eve and their children, the righteous children. But in the beginning, it was not so. And I've shown unto you that the record of my father shall come forth unto Joseph. And he shall translate the part, well, I've been allowed to use the name Joseph. I'm not saying it's talking about me. This is talking about the ancestor Joseph. And the Joseph that was Smith that this information came to. But right now I'm translating it. Niggas Joseph. So that the record of my father shall come forth unto Joseph, and he shall translate the part which is unsealed and publish it to the world, so that all might know of the work of the Father, which was wrought upon the land of Eden. This is debunking the out of Africa theory once again by the word. There's nothing wrong with if you're in Africa. There's nothing wrong with you being from Africa. That's where you're from, but we're not from Africa. Upon the land of Eden, which is this promised land. That's why everybody always trying to come here. They talk bad about it, but they always bringing their ass right over here. Why is that? Because this is the promised land. That's why I'm trying to tell you, I'm not no sucker. I'm no sellout. I'm not none of that. But I'm trying to tell you, I'm not going to talk against America. Because this is our promised land. This is our home. I'm not disrespecting the United States. I'm just trying to tell you the United States is not America. The United States was a corporation that was designed to take care of the real Americans as okay, we'll come over here, and when we come over here, we'll make sure that you're taken care of. That's what the true corporation was all about. But then you had some Europeans got slick with it, like they always do, and say, okay, we'll make it so that you have to serve us. Switched it around. But I'm trying to establish to you that the Americas is that Garden of Eden, which is this promised land, which should be called in the latter days the United States of America. Okay, now we know where we all came from. Why is that? Because our ancient forefather, who they called the Ancient of Days, who gave the verdict. See, a lot of people saying they think that's God. That was a God, they told you that, but that wasn't the Almighty God. That was Adam. And that's he's styled as the Holy Ghost in the spirit world, according to the still portion. That's why he was able to give the judgment, because he's the Ancient of Days of all of us. The Most High, the real Most High, in the spiritual, the Holy Spirit Most High, he don't have no days, so he can't be Ancient of Days because he was never in days. He's eternal. But the Ancient of Days was our forefather Adam, the ancient, the beginning of it. Daniel 7:22, until the Ancient of Days came, and the judgment was given to the saints, the Israelites of the Most High, the Aboriginal Indigenous people. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. That's the verdict Adam gave. That's why he's able to stand up for his people in his office name of the Holy Ghost, Michael, the Archangel. Michael stands for his people. And the Most High, Yahawah said, and Michael shall help me. That's why he's able to give the verdict. And to Adam came, or the Holy Ghost came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Now, we've already established through the word of God, of Yahawah, that it all started in America. And then if you follow and study as I gave scripture through the scriptures, it tells us that Cain and Benelli were sent to the east. Those are the people that started out in the east, not us. And then the righteous of us, who were taken into slavery, was taken from America and sent to the east under their slave masters there. And then when they came back to America, it's not like they started out in the east. No, they were brought back to America. But many of us was already here in America. Because how we know that? Because Adam was here first. And then we found out through the sealed books and the books of Mormon that our ancestors, who were called Nephites and Lamanites, including some of the Jaredites, came over in 600 BC. Still the first people here. Then I got to go back to the Book of Remembrance of Ancient Grandmothers. Chapter 1, verse 99. And it came to pass as I sat pondering these things, and I could see that the children of Yaakov, Adam, and Chava, Eve, were the very first indigenous people whenever they spread themselves. See, they started out in America. And they were indigenous. So that means they were quote unquote Negroes. So we go back to this book, Revealing America's Dark-Skinned Past, Volume 2, the Columbia Area, Red, Silver Fox, Thunderbird. It says, dark-skinned people of the Americas. In any case, between the years of 1492 and 1501, at least 3,000 Native Americans, remember that term, Native Americans, were known to be shipped to Europe. Where from? America. With the likely total being possibly double that. So the real indigenous aboriginal people of America that were shipped to Europe didn't come from Europe. They were shipped there. I was watching I should have, I might just do it. I don't know. I won't do that. I was watching IUIC. And they were talking about the Spaniards and the different ones that we found out that were shipped to Europe in different parts. They were first Americans based on this information. And they were shipped over there. That's how they was there. These were the indigenous ones in that port that were shipped there from America. And then I come to find out, that's why I watch a little bit of everybody, because I can learn something from everybody most times. So whether IUIC or devil worshippers or what people say, I don't know, man. That's none of my business. I'm just looking for the truth. So when I find some truth, I say, okay. And leave the rest on the plate. That's what I tell you to do. If that's your will to do, I can't make you do nothing. And what I found out, the original name of Tony, Anthony, and Anthony was an original name of the Israelites. I said, wow, that's incredible. And to go based on this information here, I didn't come from Spain, any place like that. I was already here in America. I'm just talking about me and people that's in Aboriginal indigenous that's called Anthony or whatever. Tony. Those were our original names. And we're still Aboriginal indigenous to America. Well, I ain't got to be ashamed of that name. Well, that's a good name. He said, and then when they came to the back as slaves, then they changed their names to European names. So I already had a good name. Praise the Most High. Page 51, dark-skinned people of the Americas. In any case, between the years of 1492 and 1501, at least 3,000 Native Americans, remember that term I told you, were known to be shipped to Europe, with the likely total being possible double that. Most were sent to the Seville area, where they seemed to show up in the slave market as Negroes. Negroes, Native Americans. What most people don't realize is Negro was a terminology that was used to describe the indigenous people of the Americas. What did we find out about Adam? His righteous children were indigenous, wherever they spread themselves from America. So if you can't see that we came from America and not from Africa, you got an agenda that ain't in our best interest. Now, I told you about the Native American for a reason. I told you the other day through the scripture, the books of remembrance, that the Yahawah himself gave his first decree of our freedom in the book of remembrance that applies to our time now, which is right on time because the Roman Catholic Pope's private attorney said the same thing. Not saying she freed us or he freed us, but they's complying because they said by necessity they had to say these things. And I read another scripture before when the Most High said he loves necessities. So let me see something they said by necessity. The end of 400 years of European meddling and predation in America by Anna von Retz, the Roman Catholic Pope's private attorney. See, of course, you got to always read through the information because they always try to include themselves in it. But we have enough information now that we can read through it and see what's true and what's not. I just said, just remember the term Native American. But I'm gonna read it all to you, but just really, but still remember the term Native American and remember that the Most High is talking about his people who are indigenous. She is too, because she always brings up over 150 years ago where they acknowledge the crime they committed against us. But I'm still reading it all to you. Just remember that they always try to throw themselves into our information to include themselves. In March, the IMF's Government Service Corporation, doing business as the United States, Inc., went insolvent. It was entered into Chapter 11 without naming a successor to contract. They left the federal side of the Constitution vacant and flapping in the wind. My daughter just showed up again. She always do that. Show up right when I'm teaching. I don't work at them. I ain't saying that. You got the right to do what you want to do, baby. I'm just trying to tell you, it seems like you always pop up right when I'm teaching. I ain't teaching you nothing. I'm just saying the obvious. You always seem to pop up right when I'm teaching them. Huh? You always recording. No, I'm not always recording. It just seems like you always pop up when I am, though. You don't do nothing but to report. You being out. Cool. That's where I'm supposed to be at. I feel like. But I mean, I know, babe. I'm not saying nothing against you. I'm just trying. All I was saying, you just seem to pop up right when I'm making statements on the internet. There's nothing. You ain't done nothing wrong. I guess you have. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying you always pop up when I'm doing it. You have to come through the door all the time, right when I'm doing it. In March, the IMF's Governmental Services Corporation, doing business as the United States, Inc., went insolvent. It was entered into Chapter 11 without naming a successor to contract. That left the federal side of the Constitution vacant and flapping in the wind. The intention of the perpetrators is obvious. She called them perpetrators. She said it's obvious. They meant to void, and you say I ain't accused her of nothing, people. You heard me. I just said my daughter just happened to pop up every time I'm doing so. You actually see me every time I make a video, so you see it yourself or hear it yourself. So I ain't lying. They left the federal side of the Constitution vacant and flapping in the wind. The intention of the perpetrators is obvious. They meant to void the Constitution once and for all. So what to do? We had already delivered due process to the IMF, DBA, United States. She ain't saying nothing about America. The United States is a foreign corporation. 28 what is it? 28 USC 3002, section 14 and 15. We'd already delivered due process to the IMF, DBA, United States, and its franchises, resulting in a proper judgment of commercial and administrative default. See, more than likely what they did, they probably taking on my video screens and they probably twisting them and doing all type of things like they do. And that's why everybody's doing wickedly. This feels so comfortable because they're all in cahoots together, and they're doing what they always do, editing and doing different things according to that they think that nobody's watching. But just like allegedly the Roman Catholic Pope's private attorney and all the cardinals and different ones are no longer here, as well as a lot of the actors and different ones are no longer here. Somebody's watching above them. So I'm not worried. The Most High said his eyes is in every place. So no matter what anybody does in wickedness, is being watched. Satan is even watching, as I read before in the sealed portion. He's watching because he said he's going to destroy and kill everybody in his jurisdiction. So I'm not worried about the deceptions and these different things because Satan is even watching. He's going to kill them all. They think they doing, did I do good, mess? Good looking out. That's what Satan going to tell you. We'd already delivered due process to the IMF, DBA, United States, and its franchises, resulting in a proper judgment of commercial and administrative default. We had already entered a properly constructed claim in commerce to claim back all the assets naturally belonging to the American people. So we see who the true American people are, the indigenous people. We formed an alliance with the Lakota. Well, this things they said they did. We formed an alliance with the Lakota and Athabasca, because remember they got the $5 Indians that they try to replace us with. But that's why I told you, remember the term Native Americans, who the true Native Americans are. So no matter who they, in their mind, they still acknowledging who we are. We formed an alliance, that's what she said they did, with the Lakota and the Athabasca, two of the largest Native American nations, which are federal and which have intentionally recognized tribal governments. See, about the terms they using, I don't care what they did in trying to include themselves. No, she didn't acknowledge who the true people are. And we don't need nobody to federally recognize us. We already been recognized by the Most High. That's why things are happening the way it's happening. We ain't got to sell out to gain freedom. Well, we'll let you give you freedom, but the only thing to sign this, though. Nah, we ain't got to do that. We don't need you to say we're free. For who the Son is set free is free indeed. That's why he's called the kinsman redeemer. We formed an alliance. Okay, that's what they say they did. Which are federal and which have intentionally recognized tribal governments, and we filed sovereign letters, patents, and declarations to joint sovereignty. That's what we're talking about now, reparations. That's sovereignty is included in that. And we ain't got to have no joint sovereignty with no people, he said, except him. We're joint heirs with our kinsman redeemer. That's why I said joint heirs with Yahawah. The Constitution was saved and a new foundation begun. Remember I told you to look who were the true Native Americans, right? Let me read it to you again, just in case. You might have forgot. In any case, between the years of 1492, this is going back to this book here, page 51. In any case, between the years of 1492 and 1501, at least 3,000 Native Americans were known to be shipped to Europe, with the likely total being possible double that. Most were sent to Seville area where they seemed to show up in the slave market as Negroes. What most don't realize is Negro was a terminology that was used to describe the indigenous people of the Americas. So if that was used to describe the indigenous peoples of America, that means you had to describe Adam and Eve as Negroes and all of his children as Negro, who down the line end up being Israel when Shem and Jacob and all them came on the scene. Abraham. So she just acknowledged the true indigenous Americans, they call Negroes, the indigenous people, who the Most High calls his Israelite people, or Yasharala people. The Native Americans are now free to come home to land that they were removed from. See, they removed the quote unquote African Native Americans, Salaki. They removed the Native Americans in two ways: by literal removal and straw man removal, making you nobody through paperwork. Let me go back to it. Since I'm there, let me go to another thing that she confessed to. As the spokeswoman for the Roman Catholic Pope, his private attorney. All right. And I'm gonna hold these videos into to 2.5 to maybe 3 hours each. So I won't overburden you. This will give you enough to study each session. This is a civil order that was that she issued forth through the Roman Catholic Pope June 10th of 2014. It said, these Semitic deceits have given rise to endless confusions and usurpations and criminality. These general civil orders address some of those issues which are most important at this time. The Congress ceased operating as it was required by contract to operate in 1860. After December 1865, it never again operated as an unincorporated body politic representing the states of the Union. The federal government has functioned ever since exclusively as an incorporated commercial entity with an elected board of directors calling itself the U.S. Congress. As such, the federal government is a for-profit commercial corporation, like any other for-profit commercial corporation. It has no special status, no immunity from prosecution. It hasn't functioned as a government body of a sovereign nation for over 150 years. That's to remember that term, 150 years. That they're talking about the African Americans, quote unquote, African Americans, when they bring up that 150 years. To overcome this obvious difficulty, the U.S. Congress formed a second Union of American States from the federal territories and possessions from the 7 insular states, including the state of New Columbia, District of Columbia, Guam, Puerto Rico, American Samoa, etc. A new nation was formed calling itself the United States of America, claiming separate national sovereignty. Thus, we have the United States of America comprised of the 50 organic states created in the Statehood Compact. In the District United States, both being administered under the direction of the corporate board of directors, known as the U.S. Congress. There's a bunch of Europeans sitting up there, some of their sovereign, and they not. They just a corporation, just like any other corporation. Which has continued to act solely as the sovereign government of the corporate United States. These blatant Semitic deceits by officers of the federal corporation and officials of the corporate United States amount to purposeful constructive fraud against their employers, the American organic states. To try to overcome this obstacle, members of the U.S. Congress contrived a complex regulatory scheme by which they established their own state governments. And have tried, see, this is the Roman Catholic Pope's private attorney, so that means that Roman Catholic Pope, by necessity, made all this stuff known, although he owns all of that stuff. Or owned it, allegedly. Because they say allegedly he's no more here. Not here anymore. But it's still the same process, same people. And have tried to claim that they have been at war with the American people. What did the verses? He said they were at war with all of the black nations. That's what the verses was all about. They say the term black. The black kingdoms. The Israelites. And have tried to claim that they have been at war with the American people. The Native Americans and the quote-unquote Negroes we just found out through knowledge. While relying upon the organic states for their own substances. And have truly claimed that they have established exclusive legislative jurisdiction over the original states of the Union by these acts of self-interest fraud carried out against the employers and benefactors. We're their employer. I mean, we're their employer. Fraud has no statute of limitations. The governmental service corporation have always been under commercial contract to provide services to the American people and have acted against their employers as employees. It is essential that members of the Bar Association, members of the state governments, which have been surreptitiously defined to their detriment, members of the domestic police forces and members of the various armed forces gain a clear understanding of the fact that for purposes of administration government services on American state soil, the federal government is a corporation with no more civil authority on the land than J.C. Penney or Harley Davidson Incorporated. The federal government is under contract to the organic states. And then she's going to say, Now her forefathers, because it's not ours. Vested in an entire civil government on the land, in the people inhabiting the land. Therefore, each American is a sovereign organic state of the Union, by her own words. What is an American? Let's go find out. I'm just using information. I'm not hating on nobody. I'm just giving you the truth. That's why she's acknowledging the truth, who the true American is. American. Adjective pertaining to America. American, now a native of America. Once again, the Negro, quote unquote. Originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races. That's why Joseph had the coat of many colors, because we come from really, really dark skin to light skin. The coat of many colors. That's what really knows the difference, because in slavery, what did they say? They said that the quote unquote Negro can only go drink water from the colored fountain. So they didn't consider themselves colored. That's why Joseph had a coat of many colors. They're pale face, according to the definition. That we called them that. Originally applied to Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by paleface, the Europeans. But now applied to the descendants, the $5 version. But now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. See, they're the true United States citizens. They're only citizens according to paper. We're native here. We're Aboriginal indigenous here. But they tried to flip the script, as she just told us earlier, to her own definitions and confessions. It said the federal government, DBA, the United States, Inc., a French commercial corporation, is hereby called to task for non-performance on its contractual obligations. And this is not a quote-unquote Negro saying this. This is their Roman Catholic Pope. This is their boss saying this. The Semitic deceit involving in claiming that American state citizens are U.S. citizens, and all the other fraudulent claims advanced against the American people and states are to be fully recognized. So we're only dealing with the American people, though. All that other jargon she's talking about. We talking about the Israelites, the quote unquote Negroes. That's who the Most High is talking about. He ain't talking about all the other stuff she's trying to add in. His people, who are called by his name. But of everything they try to include themselves in that naturally belongs to us, we are talking about that. We're not giving away none of our rights. We're just not going to include them in on it because they don't belong in on it. They're the ones that did it to us. How you going to do this criminal activity against us and then get in on the benefit of it? That's what they're talking about, forked tongue. White man talk forked tongue. And all the other fraudulent claims advanced against the American people are to be fully recognized for what they are, fraudulent claims, having no merit and owed no allegiance nor enforcement. Other corporate entities, notably the Federal Reserve and International Monetary Fund, which are responsible for creating and promoting this fraud, are to be recognized and dealt with appropriately as international dealers in usury and fraud. American Negroes have in the past been considered U.S. citizens because that is the only citizenship they were ever granted after the Civil War. A grave travesty of justice that resulted in them having only civil rights, which are only privileges granted by the U.S. Congress. A bunch of white people on the board of their corporation determined through fraud that they're gonna only give us civil rights, taking away our what she gonna tell us what it really belongs to us, and not to them. Which are only privileges granted by the U.S. Congress instead of the natural and inalienable rights they are really heir to. See, she just told us that we heir to all of the rights here as Americans. They really belong to us. And they are the ones that called our U.S. citizens. That's why they're the ones that really need licenses and bonds and all that stuff to operate over here. We don't need that, really. We can just operate in our unalienable rights. But because some of them still want to operate against the defiance of their boss, that's why we still have to be wise. For instance, she said if we needed she just told you we don't need a driver's license, but to be wise, she said how to get around it. She said to unregister your cars. I'm telling you what she said. Your private vehicles, private cars. That's the term, private cars, private trucks. And in the driver's license that you have, she said put on the back of there, exempt, retired, not for hire. Because actually you need a driver's license to work, to drive for them, if you have a driving job. And it only applies to the times when you're working. But as your unalienable rights, you have the right to travel all the time. And you don't need a license for that, for the true Americans, which are the quote-unquote Negroes. But because they still try to play them games, she said the way to do it is to go ahead and put on there, not for hire, exempt, on the back of those licenses. That's just to appease them until the Most High, because this is the start of the beginning of the kingdom of God. But when he truly establishes it, then we won't need those things. But it's already established now because he already said it and they already have not admitted it. Just some that don't want to let it go, don't want to be obedient to the word or to their boss. And that's why he's doing what he's doing now. He's eliminating many of them who don't want to listen to him. And those who are in place are eliminating many of those that works for them in their domain. He's eliminating them. That's why if you belong to the Most High, he said, my people will call by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their evil ways, which is their way. He said, then will I hear from heaven. Then I will forgive your sin, and then I will heal your land. Because you back into my jurisdiction. And nobody going to touch you in my jurisdiction. That's why he said in Revelation 7, hurt not those until you seal my servants in their foreheads. To make sure they're in my jurisdiction. Don't hurt none of them. American Negroes have in the past been considered U.S. citizens because that was the only citizenship they were ever granted after the Civil War. A grave travesty of justice that resulted in them having only civil rights, which are only privileges granted by the U.S. Congress instead of the natural and inalienable rights they're really heir to. They were also claimed as chattel back in the depths of the United States prohibition abolishing slavery and peonage. Then I got to go back here to show you that we're the literal lineage of Joseph, who was sold into Egypt. Going to the Book of Remembrance of Aki. First Aki chapter 3, verse 111. And this was Joseph taken bound into the land of a far country. And he was handled like unto one of their cattle, having no hope of rescue. That's where Yahawah came in to rescue us, to be our kinsman redeemer. Esau never needed he didn't need no redeemer because we had to be redeemed from him. See, all these other terms she's using, that's why I'm going to use it. When we talk about the Americans, just say the Americans. The American Negroes have in the past been considered U.S. citizens because that was the only citizenship they were ever granted after the Civil War. The sealed portion, chapter 12, verse 55. For it suffices me to say that we are the descendants of Joseph. There's too much evidence to show we are. The Northern Kingdom. American Negroes have in the past been considered U.S. citizens because that was the only citizenship they were ever granted after the Civil War, a grave travesty of justice that resulted in them having only civil rights, which are only privileges granted by the U.S. Congress instead of natural and inalienable rights they are really heir to. They were also claimed as chattel backing debts of the United States prohibition abolishing slavery and peonage. All right, let's go to Civil Orders by Anna Von Rich, the Roman Catholic post-private attorney, dated July 4th, 2014. It said all those East states and S states are wrongly believed to represent the Americans. Come up the Negroes. Even if she didn't mean that, you can't. They can't include themselves in this. She already acknowledged who the crime was against. That's what dumb diverses and the doctrine of discovery was all about. Against the dark races, the quote unquote Negroes. And by their own acknowledgement now is no longer in active. Therefore, retribution and reparation will be paid now. Because the Most High is going to make sure of it. Even to the point of, the term that they say, that a lot of people say, well, I'm going to get it out your ass then. Not in the homosexual way. which meaning he said, they gonna own you. He said, my people gonna own you. That's part of the reparation. All those estates and estates erroneously believed to represent the Americans, and which were conveyed by fraud and legal deceit to the United States of America minor, well, minus the corporation. We know the corporation. And more recently, the city-state of the United Nations are revenued without exception to the geographical defined America, where they should remain in perpetual as assets belonging to the rightful and lawful beneficiary. He just said to the quote-unquote Native American, the quote-unquote African American, the Negro, quote-unquote, who's really has inalienable and unalienable rights that belong to us. And that's the same thing here. As assets belonging to the rightful and lawful beneficiaries. We're their bosses. She even said it. All legal fiction entities, however structured and named after the American, after the Americans, are returned to them and their control. That's why I use my name that my mother gave me, Anthony Matthews Pooler Sr. Or however form is written, because every form they created and whatever benefit they got from any kind of form of my name, they got to give it back to me. Every dime they ever got from each name, the way they changed my name into whatever form it was changed into, and they benefited from it, they got to give that back to me. That's part of reparation. That's not all encompassed. That's just part of what they owe. And the Most High say, you're gonna give it back. But I'm talking about me right now, but I'm talking about all of Israel. Each and every last one of us. And they did this to all of us. You don't give my people back what you owe them, even if you don't want to give it back to you, I'm gonna take it out your ass. They gonna own you. And which were conveyed by fraud and legal deceit to the United States corporation. Are reviewing you, including the city-state of the United Nations. That's the Vatican. Are revenued without exception to the geographically defined Americans. No matter where you at in America, you American, that you owed this. All legal fiction entities, however structured and named after the American people, are returned to them in their control, free and clear of any debt, promise, encumbrance, or obligation alleged against them as a result of false claims made in their behalf by officers of the United States Corporation, of America Corporation, and the United States Inc., or by any foreign officials operating in the United States of America Corporation or the United Nations city-state, falsely claiming to represent them or have jurisdiction over them. So they don't have no jurisdiction. So we're not in their jurisdiction if you come back to the Father. That's what the Father said. If my people will call by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face. How you do that? Study and show yourself approved. He said, then will I hear from heaven. He said, then I'll forgive your sin and then I will heal your land. See, it's back our land now. Then she said this is the key thing here. She's the proud attorney for the Roman Catholic Pope, but then what she said, we note. Let's look at the term note or notification. meaning notice, attention. Now you go to the law book, notice also is some of this, but it's like a public notice. Meaning notice, attention is from early 14th century, that of reputation, fame is from late 14th century. From late 14th century as mark, sign, or token by which a thing may be known. From late 14th century as a sign by which a musical tone is represented to the eye. Okay, that ain't what I'm looking for. Meaning a brief written abstract of facts. It's from 1540s, meaning a short or informal written communication is from 1590s, from 1550s as a mark in the margin of a book calling attention to something in the text. Hence, a statement subsidiary to the text adding or elucidating something. From 1680s as a paper acknowledgement, a debt, etc. See, they're acknowledging a debt that they owe. And that comes from their boss, the Roman Catholic Pope, through his private attorney. Once again, we ain't giving him no credit like he did nothing for us. He said he had to do it by necessity. The Most High made him do. That was the process of the changing of the guard, so to speak, of his kingdom come. His will be done on earth as it is in heaven. She said, we note that the current circumstances is in part the result of a criminal acts engaged in over 150 years ago. So every time she talked about 150 years ago, she kept on talking about the acknowledgement of the debt they owed us from over 150 years ago, which was a criminal act. So how is she going to include herself in that? She can't. And nobody else can, except he's talking about the children of Israel. That's who the debt is owed to. That's reparation. We note that the current circumstances is part the result of criminal acts engaged in 150 years ago. All that acknowledgement, she's acknowledged that they owed this debt, which resulted in the commercial enslavement of African Americans who were summarily claimed as chattels back in the U.S. government debt in the wake of the Civil War. Despite every act of abolition and declaration of prohibition against both peonage and slavery, it has been the policy of the U.S. government. Once again, these are things she said because she was told to say it by her boss, the Roman Catholic Pope, who is the boss of all these organizations and is operating on the land. And he told them to cease and desist. Despite every act of abolition and declaration of prohibition against both peonage and slavery, it has been the policy of the U.S. government to enslave its citizens and to operate as rogue state. So really, the true slaves are the Europeans over here. They're the true U.S. citizens. They just tried to put it off on us. We're the Americans with all of the inalienable and inalienable rights. That's why I said you got to speak up and declare his name. That's why I tell you all the time, I'm an Israelite American or American Israelite, same thing. Or to get technical, or American Yahawah, because I'm righteous, because he said I am. Despite every act of abolition and declaration of prohibition against both peonage and slavery, it has been the policy of the United States government to enslave its citizens and to operate as a rogue state among the nations of the world. Instead of freeing African Americans, the sum total result of the Civil War was to vastly expand public sector ownership of slaves, giving rise to the outrageous and improper claims that have been made against the Americans that we are dealing with today. I'm only reading what she said, just getting through the bullshit, as they say, and going straight to the meat of the matter, which is the truth, without them trying to include themselves in it. All right, let's go back to where I was at. So just in case you forgot, I'll read it again. So going back to the end of the 40 years of European meddling and predation in America, that she was instructed to declare or to give notice to the truth. The Roman Catholic post-private attorney Anna von Ritz brought forth this information by necessity. The Native Americans, now we know that they're, no matter what they try to put in your mind, the truth of the matter is that she's talking about the quote-unquote African Americans, the quote-unquote Negroes. By knowledge that I've just brought to you earlier, that I'm not making this stuff up. So I told you, remember the term Native American in the true sense of the word, because we're Aboriginal indigenous to America. We are the Americans. The Native Americans are now free to come home to land that they were removed from, no longer POWs. They have regained their sovereignty as free, sovereign, and independent people living on the land. So you ain't got to say it. Just be it with wisdom. So every time somebody asks you, he said, faith come out of hearing and hearing come out of the word of God. So I just keep on telling you, I'm a Israelite American. Every time I get the chance, I tell them. So maybe you'll start getting the faith to become knowing in your mind, because I'm telling you who I am. From the house of Joseph, from the tribe of Ephraim. The Native Americans are now free to come home to land that they were removed from, no longer POWs. They have regained their sovereignty as free, sovereign, and independent people living on the land. See, you ain't got to say it. Why? Because they acknowledged it and they noted it. They know better. So when you got people hanging around trying to, I'm gonna arrest you as soon as you say it. You better get ready to go to the Kwame Bay, because that's where you're going. Because your boss said it, that we're free and sovereign. So you're going against your boss and the people that that's on his level. Because by necessity, the Most High, the Yahawah, who is above all principalities and powers, including them, made them say it, which is the truth. The Constitution was saved and a new foundation begun. Talking about the original Constitution, the one that was in our favor. The Native Americans are now free to come home to land that they were removed from. No longer POWs. Let me read a couple of things to you real fast. Reparation. The making of amends for a wrong one has done by paying money or otherwise helping those who have been wronged. Make amends, compensate or make up for a wrongdoing. Restitution, this is all coming from the Oxford Dictionary. Restitution, the restoration of something lost or stolen to its proper owner. And even says the ANC had demanded the restitution of land seized from black people. And of course, now, we're not black people, we're Israelites, who their term was, in their mind, was Native American. We're the Aboriginals, who the Most High calls is Israelite people, is Yashraelites. That's actually written right here too. Restitution, restoration of something lost or stolen to its proper owner. The ANC had demanded the restitution of land seized from the black people. Oxford Dictionary, Oxford language. Redress. Remedy or set right. An undesirable or unfair situation. Also, for many of us who are gang stalked, we send this also before the Most High because of the things you try to do to ruin our lives, to take away our right to, what does it says? The right to happiness, and which means blessings and liberty. You owe us for that too. And you will pay up. You know why? Because we're not making idle threats. We're telling you what the Most High said. The power to redress the grievances of our citizens. Set upright again. Compensation. Something typically money awarded to someone as a recompense for loss, injury, or suffering. Recompense. Make amends to someone for loss or harm suffered. Compensate. Pay or reward someone for effort or work. Also, I'm still throwing in to this lawsuit before the Most High that He's gonna make you pay up. When you came in and all the medical malpractices you've done to me, like injecting me with things when I told you not to, I didn't want it. And even if in ignorance, what you did, and I was too ignorant at the time to know what you had done, that's still fraudulent. Because you didn't let me know what you were doing. Although it was in bad faith. I'm including all that in there for the powers to be to hear. The Most High is going to enforce it. He told me to warn you in righteousness, according to his name. Tom, the dentist at Kaiser, Kaiser gave me the shot without me asking for it. The nurse came in, just gave me a shot, and I told him I didn't want one. Dentist came in and implanted something in my jaw, not telling me the effect of it. Something it was going to be there for me to be able to receive another tooth if I choose to. And then after he got finished, he clapped hands with the technician and then said, you got to take that out now. Well, that ain't what you told me when you put it in. Including that too. all of the gang stalking, and they know who it is because I've already reported it to their all their administration. They told them to cease and desist all their fraudulent activity. I already told them. All of it. From Donald Trump on down. I've already written them notices and told them that. And they still did it. It's on record. And then the Roman Catholic private attorney already stated that this is not a figment of our imagination. This is truth. She already wrote a statement of notice telling you exactly what's going on and who's doing it. So it's not imagination. She already gave notice that it is real. And they're doing all these terrible things to people. It's documented. And nobody gonna get away with it because the powers that be already know they're doing it. And the powers that be above them, who's making them give recognition and give notice by necessity, know what's going on. So it's coming to time for reckoning. Nobody gonna get away with it. And they know who they doing it to and who's doing it. Nobody's gonna get away. Recompense. Pay or reward someone for effort or work. And they say the quote unquote Negro built the United States. Because we was already here in America, but everything that their corporations benefited from, we built it. Our ancestors. Flew on down to the day. You're still not getting paid what you're worth on your jobs. And they said, well, we're paying some people 50, 60. Well, that ain't nothing compared to what you making. And she just said, we're your bosses. So how you getting all the money? I'm just only using the information that she noted. And she said that you'll believe, since it's coming from the quote unquote white woman. And from the white, quote unquote, white man, the Roman Catholic Pope. It said, makes amends to or reward someone for loss, harm, or effort. Punish or reward someone appropriately for an action. That's when the Most High steps in. And that's what he's doing right now. Now, compensation or reward given for loss or harm suffered or effort made. Restitution made or punishment inflicted for a wrong or injury. Repayment. The action of paying back a loan. An amount of money paid back. That's what you did. But then when you tried to pay it back, you tried to pay it back to your own people, pretending to be us. Oxford Dictionary, prisoner of war. A person who has been captured and imprisoned by the enemy in war. She already acknowledged and noted that was wrong, that was done over 150 years ago. And she said it continued until that day, until this day. But then she make this acknowledgement for the Roman Catholic Pope. The Native Americans are now free to come home to land that they were removed from, no longer POWs. They have regained their sovereignty as free, sovereign, and independent people living on the land. The United States of America and the free, sovereign, and independent people living on the land of the organic state have regained their sovereignty in the international jurisdiction of the sea. For the first time since 1789, Americans are in full control of both their natural and sea jurisdiction. And then she's going to say, we are finally whole. How are you going to be in it? You can't be in it. According to your own definition, you said this travesty has been done against the quote-unquote the true Native Americans who are the Negroes. That's your term. Who the Most High calls us his people, Israelites. But we're the true Americans. So how are you going to say we? Let me go to another section to let you know she really ties the quote-unquote Negro. Watch this. It's the quote-unquote African American. It is not a mistake that Abraham Lincoln led our country into a vicious civil war. This is the same article, the end of the 40 years of European meddling and predation in America. This is further down in the notice. It is not a mistake that Abraham Lincoln led our country into a vicious civil war, the results of which are still dealing with 150 years later. See that term, 150 years later. So when she says the Native American, now you know what she's talking about, the quote-unquote African American. Anytime she used that term 150 years ago. The Civil War was not about ending slavery, as you can see by closely reading the 13th Amendment of the corporate constitution called the Constitution of the United States of America. There's another one called the Constitution for the United States of America. The corporate constitution called the Constitution of the United States of America, adopted by the perpetrators of all this criminality, betrayal, and fraud in 1868. This is her saying these things, which is really, I might as well say the Roman Catholic Pope saying these things, because she's the spokeswoman for him. It's if he's saying it. Though loudly proclaiming the establishment of slavery, the 13th Amendment of this federal corporation documented, which is actually a corporate bylaw, goes on to enshrine slavery as a permanent part of the newly formed federal corporation doing business as the United States of America. Incorporated form of law, color of law. It's just only their law comes from a corporation that has no power, only in your mind, and enforced by guns of people that they're hiring to do this wrong. But he already threatened them too. He said they're gonna end up in Guantanamo Bay. They keep it up. And just because it don't happen tomorrow, don't mean it ain't gonna happen. Because the Most High his justice is coming, and they're gonna enforce it. I mean, the powers that's over them that has been already enforcing it, allegedly. Goes on to enshrine slavery as a permanent part of the newly formed federal corporation doing business as the United States of America, incorporated form of law. It makes criminals slaves and leaves the corporate Congress as an elected board of directors free to define who the criminals are. A close reading of the 14th Amendment shows that they made everyone who was a United States citizen, federal citizen, a criminal by definition. So that's why the Most High said you got to come back home to him. and be who you truly are. Because right now, all of they wasn't enforcing it this way, but all of the Europeans who say they're United States citizens, they're the slaves. But all of the true Americans, who they called African American and Negroes, who come back to the Father, representing themselves true as Israelite Americans in his name and making it public through declaration and notice, just like they doing. And she said that you are free. Then you are free because the Son has already set you free. You're no longer a criminal or a United States citizen. You are an American, which is above their corporation. A close reading of the 14th Amendment shows that they made everyone who was a United States citizen. See the same thing they say right here in this book of who is Esau Edom? Watch this. He said, once this is who is Esau Edom, page 85. Once all nations become democracies, socialist states, or communist regimes, it is an easy step to get them to come under one world control. Becomes a member of the United Nations, same thing she's telling you. It surrenders its sovereignty and independent status. It now becomes subject to the international law of Edom, that's the sea. And she already said that we're now free from that. We have control over by her own acknowledgement, his own acknowledgement through her. That's why the Most High said in Revelation, and there was no more sea. That statement she just made, and the statement she's made, and they said that they already know there was criminal activity. In the spirit, through the word, that prophecy in Revelation has been fulfilled. Because she acknowledged that we have been given back jurisdiction over the sea. That's why the Most High said, if you call by my name and come into my jurisdiction. And that's why he never allowed us to become Israelites under the United Nations. Because he never intended us to give away our sovereignty. We're joint heirs with Yahawah once we entered into the straight gate. We're in the new covenant. When a nation becomes a member of the United Nations, it surrenders its sovereignty and independent status. It now becomes subject to the international law of Edom, the same law that she said we already overcame now, and that we have power over. And is not free to decide its own destiny. This was made evident through the events of the Iraqi War, Desert Storm. The United States did not act according to the Congressional Act or pursuant to its Constitution, but to a UN resolution. Now I'm going to make a clarity here. Because it says America, but I'm going to say the United States is not a sovereign nation. It's a corporation. Stop trying to mix up America with the United States. It is subject to the dictates of the Edomite-controlled United Nations. The world program that it follows is a Jewish program. Not an Israelite program, but a Jewish program. So we're no longer under their domain. Unless you want to be. By your own acknowledgments. Back to the end of the 40-year European meddling and predation in America. A close reading of the 14th Amendment shows that they made everyone who was a United States citizen, federal citizen, a criminal by definition, a slave by definition, and a debtor too. See, the Most High never put us under their jurisdiction. And he did it through his wisdom, knowing what they was going to do. And knowing by necessity what these people was going to admit to. That's why she said we're free. There is no more sea for us. Now, devils will be devils, but that's why they're going to get dealt with. And allegedly, they're already being dealt with. A close reading of the 14th Amendment shows that they made everyone who was a United States citizen, federal citizen. United States citizen is equivalent with federal citizen. That's because that's on paper. That's not in reality. They put you into a bizarro world, a colorable world, color of law. A criminal by definition, a slave by definition, and a debtor too. To this day, when these vermin, this is her words, bring innocent Americans into their private corporate tribunals, which are misrepresented as public courts, the charges are addressed to persons. But now you got to realize she already acknowledged that all of these persons have been given back to us. However they're structured, and whatever money they got flowing, I'm using the term money, flowing through those different persons and characteristics belong back to us. Whatever they gain through those persons are to return back to us, each and every one of us who are Americans in the Most High's jurisdiction. These persons are legal fiction entities defined as public trusts and more recently as public transmitting utilities. That's why I was trying to tell them through confession. Like I said, I didn't know nothing about my uncle passing away. But they notified me and said he passed away, and they gave me his ashes, which I kept. Out of respect for him, I didn't just throw them away somewhere. Made a video about it. And I'm saying this as a matter of fact. Now I even pulled it up. They sold it for so much. I ain't gonna put that out there. So it's mine by right, an edible right, and nobody can stop me from receiving it by right. So I'm commanding you in righteousness, like he told me to tell you, which is the truth, to release what is mine to me and add no obstacles or Satan to it, because Satan, it didn't come from Satan. And then leave me alone and allow me to do whatever I please and what the Most High orders me to do with it. And I've already promised some of it to my children, which I've already told them what that was. And I don't want anything that you're going to add to it to try to make me obligated to you, Satan, and your people. Just give me what is mine by right. And what is mine by right, I don't owe none of it to you. And I'm stating this with full disclosure and good faith, and I expect the same from you. Because he said by his own acknowledgement through her, your Roman Catholic Pope, that I don't owe you nothing. You owe me. And I don't anticipate anyone coming to try to harm me or anyone else behind something you owe me. And I object to that bad faith actions. All of it. To this day, when these vermin bring innocent Americans into their private corporate tribunals, which are misinterpreted as public courts, this is his own acknowledgments through her. Charges are addressed to persons named after the victims. These persons are legal fiction entities defined as public trusts and more recently as public transmitting utilities, and they are already guilty by definition. So every time you continue to do these things, you just add more and more guilt and more reparation must be paid. This is why it does good for anyone mischaracterized as a United States citizen to claim the guarantees of the actual Constitution, and why these courts do not hear any of the laws or the facts of any case, and also the reason that their own court rules for judges to admonish them to provide an appearance of justice where there is none. All that is really going on is a determination of how much these criminals will charge you for their service, and whether or not you will be impounded as cargo or held ransom as chattel back in the debts of their corporation. This heinous crime, duplicity, breach of trust, enslavement, and merciless abuse of the American people that's going on for 150 years. So she's telling you who the true American people are again. I told you, remember that number 150 years ago, whenever they talk about that, they talking about slavery, which was to the quote unquote, that she said, the African Americans. I'm just reading through it and interpreting it according to the truth. And giving it to you in such a way that you can even see what she's saying in truth. And since the 1930s, things have only gotten worse until now. The very mechanism they hoped to use to finish us off was, once again, including herself, which she don't have no legal right to, nor lawful right to. The very mechanism, because she's a German, she's a European. The very mechanism they hoped to use to finish us off was turned against them. We slipped in, invoked our true standing. That's why every chance I get you, I'm trying to tell you I'm an American Israelite from the house of Joseph, from the tribe of Ephraim, confirmed by the word of God, the Most High, Yahawah. We slipped in, invoked our true standing, formed a new federal alliance, issued the new sovereign letter of patent. That's this stuff they did. Issued the new declaration of joint sovereignty. That's what they did, because Most High said we only joint heirs with him. No other nations is joint heir with us. And booted both the British and the French off our shores once and for all. I'm only claiming what I claim, which is all the stuff she said that belongs to us without including them. And I'm in part 1 because I was just trying to give you a foundation of what we're going to be talking about through the word of the Most High. So I'll leave after I read this again, then I'll give you something to research, study for yourself, to show yourself approved. And then Most High say the same. I'll come back on tomorrow and see what he says continually through his word. But I end up right here. She said that all those different forms they used to get gain, everything they gained from the use of our names, however they're formed as utilities to get gain, however they use them for. She gave another definition with all the different things they use them for. All those things got to be given back to us, each and every one of us that are Israelites, American Israelites, the true Americans. All those estates and estates erroneously believed to represent the Americans, which were conveyed by fraud and legal deceit to the United States. This is civil orders stated and written July 4th, 2014. All those estates and estates are erroneously whether it's the real you or the you they created, which is not you, regardless of whoever it was, the real you or the one they created, everything they benefited from off of using your name, your status, who you are, and who they created, who was not you, that represented you in their eyes to steal from you, they got to give it back to you, no matter whatever structure they use of your name. Lowercase, all caps, whatever they did. All these estates and estates erroneously believed to represent the Americans, which were conveyed by fraud and legal deceit to the United States of America, the corporation, and more recently to the city-state of the United Nations. We just got a friend reading about that. That's actually the Vatican. Are revenued without exception to the geographical defined Americans, where they shall remain in perpetuity as assets belonging to the rightful and lawful beneficiaries. I mean, always, it ain't gonna change no more. It always belonged to whatever is ours as individuals belongs to us, because they did it to us individually, and then as collectively. And all legal fiction entities, however structured and named after the Americans, are returned to them in their control, free and clear of any debt, promise, encumbrance. So they can't charge you and say you owe them nothing. Free and clear of any debt, promise, encumbrance, or obligation alleged against them as a result of false claims made in their behalf by officers of the United States of America, Inc., and the United States, Inc., or by any foreign officials operating in the United States of America, Inc., or the United Nations city-state falsely claiming to represent them or have jurisdiction over them. We note that the current circumstances is in part the result of criminal act engaged in 150 years ago, which resulted in the commercial enslavement of African Americans who were summarily claimed as chattels backing U.S. government debt. So right here, they're telling you, they already know that you're from the house of Joseph. So a lot of us is out of pride who want to be associated with the tribe of Judah. I'm not saying that some of us are not the tribe of Judah, but most of the African Americans, as they say, they know who we are. They know we're from the house of Joseph. They know that we're from the tribe of Ephraim or Manasseh. They already know this. Because you want to be associated with the tribe that Yahawah came out of, not knowing that Yahawah is hid in you. That's why you bringing the message home now through the truth. Because they put him out of the high esteemed temple and they told him that he could only preach in the court of the Gentiles. That's why he's preaching in the court of the Gentiles right now, through you and me. We're the house of Joseph. Note that the current circumstances is in part the result of criminal acts engaged in 150 years ago, which resulted in the commercial enslavement of African Americans who were summarily claimed as chattel, backing U.S. government debt in the wake of the Civil War. Despite of every act of abolition and declaration of prohibition against both peonage and slavery, it has been the policy of the U.S. government corporation to enslave its citizens and to operate as a rogue state among the nations of the world. That's why he told you who Esau in the book, that anybody that becomes part of the United Nations, then you give away your sovereignty. But the Most High didn't allow us to give away our sovereignty. That's why he allowed them to call us African Americans in terms they used, because that's not who we are. We're the people, we're the children of Israel, the true Americans. Instead of freeing African Americans, the sum total result of the Civil War was vastly expand public sector ownership of slaves, giving rise to the outrageous and improper claim that have been made against the Americans that we are dealing with today. Then it says the right to act comes with the responsibility to act. This notice is by the hand and upon, she said, her civil authority set this 4th day of July 2014. This all the names she used: Anna Maria Wilhelmina Hannah Sophia Ritzinger von Ritzton von Leto Vorbeck, private attorney, in the service of, as she put it, to His Holiness Pope Francis. And she said copies to Joint Chiefs of Staff Major General David E. Quantock, other interested parties. Then it has judicial notice, etc. All right. So what I would tell you, Israel, based on knowledge and truth, we're free. It does not care. It's not about what it appears to be. That's what the Most High said. When He shall appear, we should be like Him, free, sovereign. He has already appeared. I'm not saying He literally came back yet, but I'm talking He's appeared through the truth, through their own acknowledgments. We're free. We have sovereignty according to what the Most High already declared us to say we're sovereign. And by their own acknowledgement, they said that we're sovereign. So you ain't got to keep saying, just be it. You ain't got to keep arguing with people, man, trying to tell people what you ain't going to do. Just be wise. If the quote-unquote police, somebody pull you over and they want to see a license and you got one, just go and do what she said. Put on there, exempt, private, not for hire, on the back of your license. You can get one of those stamp things and put them on the back of it. And just show them the license. Because they intent on doing what they're going to do as far as being fraudulent. It ain't going to help you to be sitting there arguing with them, talking about what you ain't going to do. Just do the things that you know that you, even by them, they say that you should do. I'm not talking about doing nothing fraudulent, though. Still remain who you are. I'm just trying to tell you, if somebody got ability to do you harm in that moment, just be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Cause ain't gonna do you no good being dead. I'm talking about, yeah, he sure stood up for his right. I'm looking for one more thing before I end. That's why I try to tell you. And speaking of that, I'm not demanding nobody do nothing. Me as far as trying to strong on, because I ain't gotta do that. By all these acknowledgments, I just told you to give me what is mine by right. If you don't, what I'm gonna do to you? I've given you enough information to know I have the right to receive what is mine by right. And I'm not trying to say that's a cowardly or nothing like that. I'm just telling the truth. What I'm gonna do to somebody that just don't want to be right? One thing I ain't gonna do is go marching or nothing like that, because I ain't gonna help nobody. But I will come to the internet and voice my opinion and my notice through rights that I have to the public. But in the end, I'm gonna receive what's mine by right, and you will too. Just keep the faith, keep believing in the Most High, keep confessing positive, right, the word, and you shall see what is yours by right. Because he already promised, and at the end, all the ones that don't do right, he gonna kill them. And then he said we gonna own them. So eventually they're gonna do right one way or the other. I just seen something else that I never saw. It said, land at peace, sea at war for 150 years. Let me look into this real quick. Well, it's a long reading, so I ain't gonna bring it forth now. Maybe later. And then remember, every time you read something she says, you got to always read it according to scripture, because she always trying to include herself and themselves in what the Most High's promise does. My daughter got the TV turned up really high. See, she's working with the enemy. I don't know if she really knows she's doing it or not. She could just be under a spell. She can't see it. She think I'm attacking her. But you can hear it and see it, because you've seen a lot that she always do. She has the mark of the beast. Let's see, I'm trying to find it real fast. How can you be living with somebody else and you're just gonna be all defiant to the point where you just totally disrespectful? That's why, according to her own words, that's why she think I did it wrong. That's why I told her that I wasn't gonna give her nothing from what is mine by right, because she literally be cussing me out, telling me what she ain't gonna do in my dwelling, and then think I'm doing her wrong when I told her, okay, well, I'm gonna let your husband take care of you like you said. And I'll be like the Yahawah friend, I've done you no wrong. Your own words have judged you. If you don't change, the Most High gonna judge you. Turn the TV up real loud. I don't know if you hear it or not. That's disrespectful. No, I'm on here teaching the word of the Most High, and you're totally showing disrespect. That's why I know you got the mark of the beast. I know if I lived with him, I wouldn't disrespect him like that. Oh yeah, I just ran into something else. Let me read this to you to let you know the gang's talking. It's been acknowledged by her. It's about, this is one of the articles. Yeah, she had another article. It said about targeted people and whether warfare or stop being stupid, part 3. She says, by Anna Von Rich, our military, like all major militaries of the world, has a long and despicable history of using our soldiers and the domestic population, anyone unlucky enough to be considered either a United States citizen or a citizen of the United States, as guinea pigs for weapons tests and for drugs and all sorts of other heinous evasive procedures. The reason this is allowed is to go on is that when you sign and enter the U.S. military, you become a municipal citizen, a slave, literally subject to the whims of Congress and DOD. And the DOD. So you have unknowingly given monsters control of your body unto death. And they are free to cause your death in any way they please. Send you into battle, let you freeze to death in quarters, abandon you at Benghazi, inject you with horrible drug concoctions, expose you to spent uranium, artillery, shells, Agent Orange, whatever. My uncle Melvin contacted Agent Orange when he was in the Army. But I've already notified them in about 2017, several since then, that I've let them know that I'm an American Israelite. Let them know that I'm not their property. I'm not their citizen. I'm an American, an Israelite. They already know this. So the fact that they continue to try to do these things, they already know they're in violation. And I've constantly told them cease and desist. All the way down from Donald Trump on down. They're Roman Catholic Pope, everybody. If more people know that, they would never sign up and join the United States Armed Forces at all. This is coming from the Roman Catholic Pope's private attorney, which means it came from him. If more people don't know that, they would never sign up and join the United States Armed Forces at all. That's what the sealed portion was telling you. Also, most people who receive their DD 214, I remember back when I had not knowingly and knowing about none of this stuff, I just had great business ideas. I never had no really good business because I never really attained that. Somebody I used to work with, that's what he brought in, a DD 214, a European fella. I said, wrong, that's the way it used to be. Nowadays, you have to write a letter to the heads of these services branches. I did all that. And although I've never been in the military. But I want to let them know that I knew the difference between a United States citizen and an American. That's one thing I did learn back then, as I was learning. Nowadays, you have to write a letter to the heads of these service branches and the Secretary of Defense and the State Secretary and State of State where you live, plainly stating that you have been honorably discharged and have been retired. And I have them in there. It even says so on my retirement badge. Turn back to you. Trying to see if I can show you better. This is honorably retired. And these badges, they just don't give them to anybody. But maybe this was the good people at the probation department that let me see that they was working on my behalf, because they gave me this. And they didn't give it to me. I earned it, because I would say to myself, I was an excellent probation officer when I worked there. Was I perfect? No. But I can say this. When the staff and the minors saw me coming, it was a good day. They said, yeah, they respect, the young men respect him, they gonna act right today. And that was most times, because the young men liked me, including my, what they call my Mexican brothers. They looked out for me a lot, as well as my, and we're all the same people though, but don't be offended, but you see now we came from what they call Negro. That's why even in the pueblos and different places, who do they have in there? You might have what they call sometimes white trash. That's what they even name themselves. But for the most part, I'm gonna use terms like say niggas and Mexicans. That's who's there. That's because you're the same people. But this badge say I'm honorably retired. And this was given even after all of my faults. So it ain't like they say, oh, I should take that back because we found out. No, they already knew everything that happened throughout my, as they say, career in probation. And they still gave it to me. And then after that, I even called them and I told them, I said, I apologize to you for the times I was at fault for different things. They said, we forgive you. We gave you a second chance. So if they can forgive me and gave me a second chance, who are you to say something against me? And if the Most High can forgive me for all things I've done wrong in my whole life, who are you to say something? That's why I ain't got to listen to you. This is the same letter, targeted people in weather warfare and stop being stupid. By her own, that's a title she gave. It says nowadays you have to write a letter to the heads of these service branches and to the Secretary of Defense and the State Secretary in the state where you live, plainly stating that you have been honorably discharged. Well, you don't even have to do that no more, according to what she said in the former letter. She said because they already acknowledged their wrongs and that they owe us. But back then, she was saying, so you have to do this. This was back then. And you have to keep a copy of this proof of mailing. I even got a copy of that. So that if anyone claims you are still under contract and agreement to act as a United States citizen and to be subject to the whims of the Congress, the Board of all European corporate members, and have given up your constitutional protection, you can tell them, go blow and do it sideways. The same claims have been advanced against the domestic population of citizens of the United States. so that anyone on welfare, anyone who is claiming political asylum, anyone of African American descent, anyone who is dependent of a military or civilian employee of the federal corporations, anyone who is cluelessly claiming and tolerating the presumption of a municipal citizenship and accepting the labels associated with it can simply be imposed upon and killed and experimented upon like animals in a test laboratory. If you want a good example of and proof that what I'm saying is true, and also proof that weather modifications exist all in one swoop, go look up the United Nations ENMOD Treaty from 1974. The treaty not only addresses the misuse of geoengineering, it stipulates that any country conducting research into such weaponry and systems can only use their own domestic population and country to experiment on. That's why you got to get out of their jurisdiction and come into the Most High's jurisdiction, Israel, who think you African Americans, Negroes, and colors. Let's see, 1974, 1984, 1994, 2004, 2014. I count that as 42 years that it has been fully and officially admitted that weather modifications exist, and that weather warfare was seen as a problem requiring international treaties. So please, someone tell me why there is any controversy about this being real. But even more interesting from that standpoint is the provision that domestic populations could be used as guinea pigs. So what is a domestic population? In this case, it means domestic or international population with respect to the United States. It didn't say nothing about America. All the rest of us, Americans, exist without the United States and its territorial and municipal jurisdictions. We don't reside here. We live here. And the big problem, that's why I always trying to tell them, and I wasn't trying to disrespect them when they someone trying to call me a resident. I'm not a resident. I live in my body, but I dwell, or what she say, live here. Outside of their colorable situation. I live in what is called the true temporal world. And I truly live in the eternal world. Which is the true world. And the big problem for these con men and liars is that as soon as the people wake up and stop putting up with this misrepresentation, the bastards among us don't have a leg left to stand on or a word left to say. All those chemtrails in the sky, you are being poisoned as domestic population. The poison, fluoride being added, this is all her information she's bringing forth. To acknowledgement, which is basically the same thing the Pope is telling you, the Roman Catholic Pope was telling you, because that's what she's speaking for. You're being controlled as a domestic population, the mercury in the vaccines, the hundreds of untested drugs flooding the market and resulting in millions of lawsuits. That's all okay because guess what? You're being considered domestic with respect to the United States and subject to every whim of Congress and the three commissioners running the District of Columbia. Oh, and all their good buddies, Monsanto, Procter, Pfizer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Recently, I've been receiving all sorts of piteous, terrible stories about people being targeted by electromagnetic radiation devices. These stories come primarily from immigrants to this country who have knowingly agreed to serve as citizens of the United States, slaves, guinea pigs. So it's not unlikely that, yes, they are being used as targets and experimented upon by the DOD or its subcontractors. Why not? They are foreigners, yet they are also considered domestic. The guys twisting the dials are probably being fed shinola too, being told that these people are dangerous domestic terrorists. Note the word domestic again. That sounds like a better excuse to torture innocent people than being told that Dr. Mengele's nephew is curious about the effect of long-term exposure to concentrated ULF radiation. What to do about it? Move to a different country until we get things sorted out? Would be my best advice. And she said, well, I'll say the United States, I'll take America out of it. The United States is no longer the sanctuary of sanctity that it once was, because we have criminals and madmen in control of the governmental service corporations, and their subcontractors and agencies are even worse. It was one of the answers I was looking for. Retired means retired. By Anna Von Rex. Retired means retired. Once you are retired, and that is that. You're owed your pension and health insurance from the government corporation in the same way that you would be owed your pension and health insurance from IBM or Walmart or REI. You do not have any further obligation to the corporation. You can live wherever in whatever jurisdiction you wish. You just already noticed that now, because we the true American Israelites have jurisdiction over all things now. That by our own acknowledgement through that said the Europeans got to keep their nose out of our business. You do not have any further obligation to the corporation. You can live wherever in whatever jurisdiction you wish. You simply have to make a choice: freedom or continue slavery. Having made that choice, you inform the state secretary of state that you are retiring from any presumption of the United States citizenship or enfranchisements and are returning to your natural birthright status: Israelite American. I'm talking about Israelites who want to acknowledge that they came back to the Father. If you just acknowledge that you're an American, that suffices. Because you're actually saying the same thing, that just showing that you're ashamed of the Father, though. You don't lose anything. You simply change your political status. You surrender the municipal person created by the birth certificate back to the Secretary of the Treasury. You rescind your voter registration, and you record the simple improved act of expatriation, It also covers your domicile and your allegiance to the land, jurisdiction, state. You inform your bank that your account is a private account and all funds transferred and deposited must be denominated as lawful money. I even told my my former employee, the County of Los Angeles, that same information. And they got it on record. I told them, I said, well, as long as you have to give me Federal Reserve notes, then that's what I got to receive because that's what's in rotation. I said, but as soon as you're able to give me what they term real money, then start giving me that. I already let them know that. So you don't lose anything. You simply change your political status. You surrender the municipal person created by the birth certificate back to the Secretary of Treasury. I already did all that stuff. I did that back then. You rescind your voter's registration and you record the simple and proved act of exportation. It also covers your domicile and your allegiance to the land, jurisdiction, state. You inform your bank that your account is a private account and all funds transferred and deposited must be denominated as lawful money. You put a label, retired, not for hire, on the back of your driver's license. So I'm already giving that a notice that when I go get my private truck, to already have my your license that you already have on file and put that retired, not for hire on the back of it. I'm letting it be known now through a public notice of good faith. You put a label, retired, not for hire, on the back of your driver's license. So you buy forever tags for your license plates and unregister your car. This is what they told you to do. As a former federal civil service employee, you will have to continue to pay federal income taxes on that portion of your pension that actually comes from the federal employment. Working for the federal. If you worked for the federal government your whole life, you will have to pay income taxes on the whole amount. If you are in private employment for 30 years and bulk of your pension is based on that, you only pay federal taxes on the portion derived from later federal employment. For most people whose only federal employment may have been a 2-year stint as a young man in the military, the amount of your pension derived from such slight attachment to the federal corporation is negligible, and they don't have to pay federal income taxes at all and are naturally exempt. You have not been taught any of this because it was to the advantage of these foreign corporations that you never learn it and never exercise your exemptions and never be free. It is to their advantage if you can take and take, if they can take and take and take and never have to pay back anything. As a citizen, you are at their mercy and have to accept whatever they give you, just as any slave must. As a state, well, I don't use those terms that she used. As an American, you are guaranteed their service and protection, and are owed all the guarantees of the original Constitution. If you are born in this country, your right choice, it's your choice. Slack it, read again. If you were born in this country, it's your choice how you want to live and what kind of status you wish to adopt. It is not their choice, and once you exercise your exemption, they have no right to say one word to you about it. I've already exercised my exemption because I'm exempt by unalienable and inalienable right. But yet and still, I still did all these things back then. And I continue to make public notices of who I am. And because I have the true original Israelite name, and all things have been given back to me, whatever form it's in, I don't have to hide my name being that my mother gave me, Anthony Madrus Pooler Sr., aka known as Niggas Yourself. So, by their own announcements, the Israelites, the called by the Most High's name, who are Israelite, Yasharallah, Americans, we're free. We're not under any curses. If we entered into the straight gate and entered into Christ, into Yahawah, the Messiah, we're free. And I don't give away any of my rights. I object to anyone calling me black, colored, Negro, African American, any other thing. I'm an American Israelite. Yasharalite. From the house of Joseph, the tribe of Ephraim. That's who I am. That's my nationality and identity. The living man, the soul, the Most High created. And both my body and my spirit the same as his. Since I'm looking for one more thing before I close. And once again, I command you in righteousness, whoever is behind the wickedness, to cease and desist all bad faith actions against me, my children, my grandchildren, and all of the Israelite nation who are Americans. And also for those who are all around the world. They're speaking for the Father, who are Israelites. Look, I ain't gonna go back up. I'm gonna keep on going down the list, see if I run into it. If not, then I'll call it an evening or night. To the Most High say, so maybe tomorrow, if he say the same, I'll bring you part 2. Well, it's a long list, man. Well, maybe it'll come to my mind. I'll start off part 2 with that if I find it. That's what I was looking for. But all praise to the Most High. All praise to His holy name. And according to His word, Kwam, Yasharala. Till next time. Shalom.